Okay, so welcome everyone. Hopefully you're here to hear about our program, our research program in molecular genetics. And I'll go through some of the information I think that will be helpful to you. And feel free to stop me and ask questions as we go, or you can ask questions at the end. You can either unmute yourself and ask a question, or you can type it into the chat and someone will stop me and let me know that there's a question there. Okay, so just to begin with, who we are. So our department is chaired by Dr. Tim Hughes, shown here, and he's at the Donnelly Center. And then I'm the graduate coordinator, Laurie Frappier, and Mike Wilson, who's also on the call, is a co-graduate coordinator. So we kind of oversee the whole graduate program. And we're also research scientists here. So I'm in the Mars West Tower, and Mike's in the PGCRL, which is a sick kids research facility. Okay, and we also have an administrative team that keeps everything running smoothly. So we have Pranur Bala, who's also on the line today, Josh Paglioni and Kyle Turner, and they have a division of labor. So they do different things at different stages of your progress through the program, which are indicated below. The one you will probably interact with first is Pranur, because she's involved in admissions and getting you started in rotations and things like that. So and that's her email here. So, if you're doing the admissions and you have a very specific question, a technical question about how to exactly what's required or something that you can't figure out from the website, she's the one to contact for that kind of information. Okay, so our department is mainly, a big part of our department is our research programs, which is an MSc or a PhD. And we also have a version of the PhD, which is called Computational Biology and Molecular Genetics, which is more computationally oriented, and I'll explain that in a little bit. We also have two other programs. We have an MSc in Genetic Counseling and an MHSC in Medical Genomics. These are quite different than our research programs, and they're run separately. So I'm not going to talk about them today. They have their own recruitment and information events. Okay, so if you're thinking about joining us for a research program, what you should ask yourself is, why do you want to go to graduate school? And so are you excited about discovery-based research and innovation? Are you curious about how molecules, cells, and organisms do what they do? And do you like solving puzzles at the bench or computationally? Because all of these things are important for our program. You need to be excited about the topics, and you need to want to solve unanswered questions in biology. Okay, so the goals we have multiple goals for our students. Of course, one of the obvious one is to learn how to be an effective scientist so that you can solve problems and that you can communicate your results clearly, not just to other scientists, but to the general public. We also want you to make a contribution to your field to figure out how something works. And that will be something you'll be able to present at meetings and publish. Excuse me. Okay, so that's all science that you'll do, but you'll also build a CV with soft skills. And this will involve learning how to write effectively, giving presentations, mentoring people, interacting with groups, and setting up networks. So all of those kind of skills are important for a wide variety of careers, even if you decide not to go on in scientific research. So we have a lot of features of our department that we feel are really outstanding, and we know that you have lots of choices about what universities to go to and which departments to go to. So we just like to tell you about why we think we're a really good choice. So first of all, we have outstanding faculty, and we're quite big. So we have over 100 faculty members in our department, and this is a little snapshot of many of them. And they are all leaders in their field. So they're all highly recognized for what they do, and many have won major international prizes. We also have a lot of different research areas in our department, and we kind of group them into these 6 categories. You'll see this on our website. So one of them is called genetic models of development and disease. Another is molecular medicine and human genetics. Also cellular and molecular structure and function. We have molecular biology and infectious disease. We have computational and systems biology, and finally, functional genomics and proteomics. And most of our faculty fall into multiple areas here. Right? So if you're particularly interested in one of these topics, you can click on this on our website, and it'll show you the faculty that do research in that area. So you could, talk to them directly if you're particularly interested in something. Okay, so the bottom line is we're very diverse. So it's very likely you can find something of interest in our department. The other thing is that we have a lot of cutting edge research facilities. Our department is not located in a single building, but rather we have faculty spread in multiple buildings, which we call research nodes. But they are all fairly close together. So they're all within a couple of blocks from each other. So it's pretty easy to walk from one site to another site to go have a meeting with a scientist in a different building, or when we do the student seminars, they'll probably be in a building that you're not in, and you'll walk to that. So there's a lot of back and forth to these different institutes and research facilities. So what they are is one is the medical sciences building that's right on campus, and our admin offices are still in there. We have a few labs are still in there, and this is connected to the newer Donnelly Center. So some of our labs are in there, and then just sort of kitty corner across the major intersection, we have labs in the Mars facility. So Ontario Institute for Cancer Research is part of the Mars Discovery District, and then we have a new West Tower built on that, which houses many of us as well. And then just down the street is the Lunenfeld Tannenbaum Research Institute, which is within Mount Sinai Hospital. And then a block or two away is the Sick Kids Research Facility, which is called the Peter Gilligan Research Center for Research and Learning. Okay, so within all of these sites, you can find just about any kind of equipment and facilities that you need. Okay, our department is also fairly unique in Canada in that we do a rotation system before you decide on your final lab. So this allows the students to sample different research areas and then make a more educated choice about what research topic really excites you and which atmosphere you like in terms of the supervisor and the laboratory. So we have in the fall, when you start our program, you will go into 3 5-week rotations. So this takes you through the whole first semester, and this will allow you to find the lab environment and mentor and research topic that works the best for you, so that you will build and you'll build your skills and your networks through that research area. Okay, so we also have some compulsory courses that you will take in first year, and this is to sort of give everybody a strong background for their thesis work. So in the fall, you will take what we call the core course or core curriculum, which covers 3 main topics: genetics, genomics, and proteomics. And so it will kind of just bring you up to speed on all of these topics and make sure that we all have some at least basic understanding of all of these topics. And then in the spring, you will do a computational biology course. Now, most of you probably don't have any background in computational biology, so you will do what we call the Introduction to Programming course, which is for people with no background in computational biology. But we do have a higher level course as well for some of you that may come in with computational skills already, or be wanting to join part of the CBMG program, which I'll explain in a minute. We also have student seminars, which you will participate in. You will, as a master's student, give a seminar, and if you're doing a PhD later, you'll give another one, and you will attend the other students giving their seminars. So you'll learn about how to give good seminars and have practice doing that. You will also have opportunities to do poster presentations for things like our retreat and other kinds of meetings where you'll just have experience presenting your work and answering questions on your feet. The other thing is that we feel that we have built an engaged and supportive community. We prioritize mentorship and the student experience. We interact a lot with our graduate students through the GSA, and we often get their opinions on things before if we're thinking of changing things, or we listen to criticisms that the students send us and things that they might like differently. And there are other opportunities you can take advantage of here. You're not required to be a TA, but we do have some TA positions. So if you would like to do that, have some teaching experience and earn a little extra money, you can take advantage of that. There's other opportunities to write for newsletters and be involved with organizing different career and social events. We have a very active graduate student association. So if you're interested in building some leadership skills, you can get involved with that. You could be the president of the GSA, or you could just be involved with them in organizing particular events that they're involved in. The other thing that we have is what we call the grad team. This is a collection of faculty members that are located in all the various buildings or nodes that I showed you. And that's just to have someone close to you that if you had an issue or either a problem or just a question about something, and maybe you didn't feel like messaging me directly, you could pop in and just chat with one of these people that are in your research area and just ask them. We also have are very engaged with the students that we have graduated and have gone on to a variety of careers. So our department, it has changed names a few times, but it's the original department is really among the first molecular biology departments in the country. And so we have graduated a lot of students and they've gone on to a lot of diverse careers. So we take advantage of that by calling them back to interact with you guys and help you to think about what kind of careers are out there. So many of our graduates are leaders either in academia, research, healthcare, private sector, and some have gone on to all kinds of jobs that I'm sure you, and I know I wasn't really even aware, were there. And so we bring them back to engage in various symposiums. The GSA organizes a bi-monthly workshops. And the department itself organizes a big annual workshop in the spring where we bring back many of our graduates and we have them give you talks about what their career is now and how they got there. And then they do these little roundtable discussion groups where you can chat with them and ask a lot of detailed questions. So we are really committed not only to your education, but to helping you develop your career down the road, and teaching you the right skills so that you are in a good place to move on and to whatever career you would like from after your training. Okay, another question you probably have is, how do I live? Well, how much money do I get in this program? So we have what we call the harmonized base funding agreement with other similar departments at U of T, where we've all agreed on a stipend for PhD and master's students. So it's basically the same stipend as other related departments. And this is the amount. So if you're a PhD student, it's just over $40,000. If you're an MSc student, it's this amount here, 37 and something. And from these amounts, you pay your tuition. So the tuition currently is what's shown over here, just over $8,000. So you would pay that. And then the remainder is your living allowance. It's what you're left with to live on, which is shown here. Okay, now, if you're an international master's students, you're required to pay a much higher tuition As you can see here, it's like over $30,000. This is a rule from the province of Ontario. We don't set these rules. Okay. And so as a result, anyone who was taking you on would have to pay that difference in tuition, which would mean you would be paid over $60,000 so that you could afford the tuition. Okay. Now that is a bit of a deterrent for people taking on international master's students, right? Because they have to guarantee them more money. So we'll talk about this in a second, but this is why master's students need to line up a sponsor ahead of time. Okay, for international PhD students, though, the tuition is the same, but international PhD students would have to take this UHIP plan. This is just health coverage, and this is the price. So we just give you that extra so that you're able to cover your UHIP fee. Okay, and another thing to keep in mind is that we do encourage you to bring in scholarships if you're eligible for, and once you're in our program, we will be notifying you all the time of different scholarships that are coming up, so you'll have the heads up, to apply for ones that you're eligible for. If you do end up bringing in a major scholarship, it goes towards the total that you get here, okay, which means we're actually paying you less. But as a reward, we give you a top up on top of these amounts of $4,000, okay, for a full scholarship. If it's, half a scholarship, it's more like 2,000. So it can be graded down, but a full scholarship will get you a bonus on top of these amounts. Okay, so to learn more about the departments and life as a graduate student, you can check out our website. We have a lot of information there. We have some videos from previous students. There is the GSA itself has its own website, so you could check out that. You can look at social media. If you have the opportunity to, it's great to talk to our current students because they can really fill you in on their experience. Okay, so that's kind of the overview part. Are there questions about that now, or you want to wait till the end? There's nothing in the chat there, Pranur?
No, nothing.
Okay. Okay, so let's go into how to apply. So the procedure of how to apply is on our website. This is the link, and it's explained in considerable detail. You will be submitting your application electronically through the School of Graduate Studies, and this is the link here. And for our start date for next September, there are 3 possible dates you can apply for. We have 3 admission cycles. The first one being November 15th, then we have another one in January 15th, and then a final one in May 1st. If you're an international student, you should apply for one of the first 2 deadlines, and that's because you probably need a visa, and it takes a while for us to process everything and get back to you, and then you need to get all your visa work in place, and that could take 3 months. We never know, depending on where you're coming from, and it changes from year to year, basically. So you're only allowed to apply to one of these deadlines, so you can pick whichever one you want. But if, let's say, you applied for November 15th and we turned you down, you don't get to apply again later for that year, okay? Just one year. So once you feel like you're in a good place to apply, just go ahead and apply with your strongest application. I should also mention that September is our only start date now. A number of years ago, we did have a January start date, but we don't have that one anymore. Okay, so let's talk about the streams that you would apply for. So one is an MSc. You can apply for that if you have never been enrolled in an MSc program before. And you have to have a minimum mark requirement of B+ average or better in relevant, and we're going to particularly look at relevant courses that are relevant for our program. When you enter this program, you have the choice of just completing the MSc and getting your MSc degree, or 18 months into the program, if you're doing well, you have the option to reclassify to the PhD program. So it can be a way of getting into the PhD program. The other thing you can do is apply for direct entry PhD. And there's two groups of people who do this. One are applicants who have completed or are nearing completion of a master's degree, a master's of science. And we say they should have distinguished themselves in the MSc, meaning that we are looking to see that you did well in the MSc. And that can be due to, and for that, one of the things we look at is, did you publish something from an MSc? Get your name on a publication, okay? And then the other group of people who can apply for direct entry PhD are those who have never been enrolled in an MSc program, but we are looking for a slightly higher average, an average of A- or higher in the relevant courses. And so you can go right from a bachelor's degree and you can apply for our direct entry PhD program. Now, in this case, students often ask, well, is this kind of risky? Like, so if you say no to the direct entry PhD, then I have nothing. Like, am I better to apply for the MSc? But what you should know is that if we think you're maybe not quite there for our PhD program, but we think you'd be a good fit for our master's program, we will automatically consider you for the MSc program. Okay, so you might apply for this and then get an offer of admissions from us for the actual MSc program. And if that's not what you want, of course, you could turn that down. But you don't need to apply twice, once for the MSc and once for the direct entry PhD. Okay, and then the last category doesn't apply very often. And what it applies for is students called regular PhD. These are students who have completed an MSc in our program and then are re-entering the program as a PhD. That doesn't happen very often, so it may not be relevant for any of you. Pranur, I see a lot of chat boxes there.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm responding to them as I go.
Oh, you're responding. Okay, good. Okay. I didn't know if anything you wanted to bring up with me at this point or.
Maybe we can bring up one question because it comes up so frequently. So one of the students or the attendees asked, like, does it matter if you have a full course load or a reduced course load? It doesn't really. Like, if you do go into part-time studies, it won't deter your application because we will look at your transcript wholly. However, if there are any extenuating circumstances that you want to discuss as to why you went from a full-time workload to a part-time workload, you can address those in your letter of intent.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the letter of intent in just a second.
And Lori, there's one other question.
Yeah.
Will international students be considered for masters if they apply for direct PhD but are not admitted? And so that question is a bit more particular.
Yeah, so okay, that's a good point. So no, because to be considered for a master's, an international master's, you have to have someone sponsor you. I'm going to talk about that now. We're going to go through those details right now. Okay, so what is in the application package? So there's a letter of intent, which I'll talk about in a minute, your transcripts, your CV, and at least 2 letters of reference. You can have more. 2 is the minimum. And then if you're an international master's student, you have to have a sponsorship form that comes from a faculty member in our department, and I'll talk about that more in a second. And some people will require an English language proficiency test. Those are for international students who did their university degree in a language other than English. Okay. And this is the cost of the application. It's currently $125. Our department has a checklist, which looks like this. So you should use it to make sure you've submitted everything that you're supposed to submit. And this list supersedes the rules of the School of Graduate Studies at U of T because we have some extra requirements. We require a letter of intent. And what this is a structured letter that's going to address several things. First of all, we'd like to know about your past and current research experiences. We also want to know about your research interests and, why are you interested in our program? Why do you want to do these degrees? Okay. And what's your interest in our department in particular? And part of this would be to look at the faculty members in our department and what they do, and tell us, a couple of faculty members that spark your interest that you might be interested in working with. We will not hold you to that. If you get admitted, we don't go back and make you work with those people. You can change your mind later, but we just want to know what you're thinking at the time of application. We'd like to know what your long-term professional goals are. And you don't really have to know in great detail or anything, but it's really just, why do you think you want the MSc and the PhD? How do you think this will help you achieve your long-term goals? You can also use this letter to clarify any details of your academic path that's relevant for your application. For example, sometimes there's a gap in people's education. Maybe they do a bachelor's degree and then, we know you graduated 3 years ago and then suddenly you're applying for us. So we wonder, well, what did you do in those 3 years? Okay, so lots of people they work for a few years and then they realize, yeah, maybe this isn't what I want to do in the long term and I want to go back to school, just something like that. Just explain to us if there's an obvious gap in your training. Also, sometimes people have a bad year. We look at bachelor's marks and we see 1 year where the marks really weren't very good at all. And then they come back up and then they're good again. Sometimes there's a reason for that. Maybe you were ill, or maybe you had some extra burden. You had to take care of an elderly parent or a child, or, you had to take an extra job, things like that happen. So if there's a reason why 1 year doesn't look good, just tell us about it. We take it all into account. And then finally, if the COVID-19 pandemic really had a big impact on what we're seeing, you can let us know about that. That used to be very, have a big impact on whether the students got any research experience or not. But now we've kind of come through that. When labs were in a lot of lockdown, this was a really major problem. But we've now had a couple of years where people can sort of regain that research experience. Okay, and this should be about 2 pages. You don't need to write us a book, just be succinct and cover the pertinent points, write in letter style, and just be authentic and sincere. Okay, so the other thing we need from you are your transcripts. So we want to see evidence of an outstanding education. So this is a 4-year BSc, and then can also include a master's degree if you've done that. We need this shows, the minimum GPA and minimum marks required. And we are looking for strong marks in courses relevant to our department. So that would be things like genetics, biochemistry, molecular biology. You have to provide us with either a scanned transcript, or an official transcript if you have it, from every post-secondary institution. Eventually you have to give us the official transcripts, but for the application process, they don't have to be official. Lab research experience is another thing that we're looking for. So, and this is beyond the classroom. So you might have had, a lab course, but we're really looking for some independent research experience. So that could be a research project. There's a number of them now. A number of universities have these now in 2nd and 3rd year. A 4th year thesis project is a pretty common thing to do. Or maybe you worked in the summer in a laboratory. The other thing we look at your reference letters, obviously, and we need at least 2 of them. And the ones that make the most impact are ones that actually have worked with you overseeing your research. So a PI or faculty member who has supervised your thesis project or your summer research or something like that. Okay, do get the faculty member to write the letter, and not, often maybe you're assigned to a postdoc in the lab who's kind of working with you, but the letter should come from the faculty member. The other option is courses that you've done well in. However, they should be courses where the faculty member really got to know you a bit and can say more than just what your mark is. Okay, we can see your mark already on the transcript. So if it was a course where you had to do a presentation or some writing project or something like that, you know, at least they can comment on your writing skills, presentation skills. They can comment a little more than just the, oh, you got an A+ in my course. Okay, some of the students are interviewed as well. All international students are interviewed. As I'll talk about in a minute, the CBMG students are also interviewed. And other than that, we sort of select sometimes certain students to interview if we have some questions about your application. If it's some students, some domestic students will just be admitted or turned down directly. Okay, so for international applicants, you might need an English language proficiency test. So this is if you graduated from a non-Canadian university where the language of instruction was not English. Okay, then we just need evidence that you can operate in English. MSc applicants, as I said before, have to secure a sponsor within the department. Okay, so this, we have a form for the sponsor that they have to complete that's basically saying that they will guarantee you a spot in their lab. Okay, and again, the issue here is really the high cost of the MSc student. So somebody has to say that they are willing to take you on. Now, if they do sponsor you to go to their lab, it doesn't mean you have to go to their lab. You can still do the rotations. And if someone else offers you the position, you could change your mind, okay? But it just gives you a fallback that there is someone willing to take you. PhD applicants do not need a sponsor. A number of years ago they did, but we don't make international PhD students get sponsors anymore. Okay, so finding a sponsor. This would be if you've been to U of T and you've worked here before, it would make sense if you've worked with a faculty member in our department that would be the person that may might sponsor you. If not, you would just look at our faculty list, find some that you are particularly interested in, and contact them with your CV and transcripts, and explain your interest in their lab and see if they're maybe interested in taking you on. If so, then they'd probably want to meet with you to discuss things. And the other thing is that the department does not facilitate getting sponsors. So don't contact me or Pernur just saying, can you help me find a sponsor? You really have to do that on your own. Okay, so the other thing that we have is our application waivers, but these are only given under exceptional circumstances. So this would just waive the $125 fee for applying. Okay, so these are restricted to people from regions experiencing war and civil unrest and refugee and asylum seekers. Okay, so you would, and this is not automatic either. So to get this, we have a whole procedure on our website that describes how to do this. But if you think you qualify, you would contact a faculty member in our department, an area that you're actually interested in, that maybe you'd be interested in joining their lab if you were admitted, and explain why you're interested in our department, why you think you're a good fit, and why you think you qualify for this fee waiver. They would probably then review, you know, they might want to talk to you. They would at minimum review your CV and transcripts, and then they just need to say that you're a reasonable candidate for our department. Okay, and if they agree that, then they would contact Pernur and they'd say, yes, I think this person should have a fee waiver. Okay, and that's just a stop, because otherwise we would be bombarded with applications, many of which wouldn't be competitive with what we're looking for. Okay, and so this is the link here on our website where you can read about this in more detail. Okay, and it's your responsibility if you're an international student and you require a visa and study permit to come here. That's really your responsibility to line that up. But do be aware that the times can be slow. Sometimes these are 12 weeks. that it takes to process these things. And you still have to arrive in time for our start date in September. So we typically start our program right after the Labor Day weekend, so after the first weekend in September. So you need to have all this arranged and be able to come in that time frame. Okay, a few words about computational biology and molecular genetics, or what we call CBMG. So this is a PhD program only, and it's for students who want a more immersive computational biology education. So they are students that can be from biology backgrounds, but have a lot of experience already in programming, or they can be students that are from more quantitative science, more like math and computational biology, but do have a little bit of biology and have an interest in using these skills towards biology. These are the course coordinators, Gary Bader and Hannes Ross, and this is it's basically the same as our regular PhD program, except your project is more computational, but also you take more advanced computational biology courses. So when our other students take the introduction to programming, you're going to take a higher level computational biology course, and then later you're going to take one more computational biology course. Okay, so to apply for the CBMG program, you need a bachelor's degree either in life sciences, biological sciences, or in quantitative disciplines. So these would be like physics, math, computer science, chemistry, engineering. Since it's a PhD program, you need an average of A- or higher, just like our other PhD program. We need to see evidence of comfort and ease with computer programming. So this could be academic excellence in multiple computer courses. It could be that you've done computational research through employment or through an academic project, and you know, basically in any capacity. We need to see academic excellence in 2 or more quantitative subjects. So these could be a variety of math subjects, or other quantitative courses. Like our other PhD program, you need some kind of research experience outside of the classroom. It doesn't have to be what we call wet lab in a lab. It could be dry lab where you're working on the computer on some kind of research project. Okay, and so again, this would be like summer work or 4th year thesis project. When you complete the application, if you're interested in this program, when you get to proposed area of study, you will indicate CBMG. You have the same reference letters as the other PhD students. For the letter of intent, we would like you to include in there that you are interested in the CBMG, and tell us why you think you're interested and that you're a fit for that program. And all the CBMG students are interviewed by our computational faculty. Okay, so that's just so they're going to just make sure that you are at the level they're looking for in computational skills. And if you're not, but you're still a really strong student overall, you may be admitted to our PhD program, but not in the CBMG program. Okay, so what to do? Let's say you get an acceptance for us. What do you do then? Well, we actually in the spring, we have recruitment days where we invite everyone who we would like to join our program to come and visit us here. This is, okay, I have to say though, that this is limited to come in person. This is limited to within North America. We just don't have the budget to bring people in from all over the world. And this would, then you would meet with some of our students, meet with the faculty, learn more about our program. When we give you an acceptance, the deadline is usually about 10 weeks after the offer. So we need you to return the acceptance if you want to come, or reject us if you don't want to come. And then at that point, you can start thinking about what labs you might want to rotate with. You're free to reach out to faculty by email anytime and say, hey, I'm joining your program next September. Are you taking students? And if so, I'm interested in hearing about your projects. And you can do that, start doing that anytime. But what we do in the summer before you start is we survey the faculty and we ask them who's interested in taking students this fall. And then in the summer, we provide you with this list, and we're going to ask you of this list, what are your choices for who you'd like to rotate with? Because we will arrange the first rotation for you. We'll try to match up who you want. And our second and third rotations are things that you end up arranging on your own once you're here. Okay, so that's the end of the talk. Are there more questions?
There's a question in the chat. If like applicants can apply to CBMG after they've completed a master's. So technically you could, you would just have to reach out to the faculty that manage the CBMG program, and you would have to complete the 2 courses that are part of the CBMG stream.
Did everyone get the questions answered in the chat? Anything we missed?
Oh, one more question. For international students, while securing a supervisor, do we need a final research topic that we want to work on, or do we get selected based on our current research experience? That's question 1. Question 2 is, what if our current research proposal doesn't particularly align with the interest of any of the faculty members? How do we secure a supervisor then? We have
Okay.
yeah, sorry.
So maybe I can answer that. So you don't come in with a research proposal. All right. So if you're interested in a particular faculty member, they will tell you what kind of research projects they have. Okay. So all you really need is to be interested in their research projects. You don't come up with a research project. Okay. So what you've done in the past, yeah, they'll look at it, but it doesn't have to be a match with what they do. You're here to learn. We believe you can all learn new things, or we wouldn't be admitting you to the program. So you could learn a brand new topic as long as you're, tell them if you're actually interested in that.
Next question. Do you have any information on how many MSc and PhD applicants go on to medical school and become physicians? What are the prospects like?
I don't think we actually have data on that. Most of our students do not go on to be MDs, but some do. I mean, there's a variety. Some will do a master's. Maybe that's their interest in the long term is doing an MD. So they might come and do a master's, have a little bit of research experience and go on. I do. Sometimes we have people complete a PhD and then do an MD as well, but I don't really have numbers on that. The majority of our students would not go on to do an MD.
And I would just like to add, like, majority of our MSc students also typically reclassify to a PhD. So it ends up being more of a research path than a medicine path.
Yeah. Yeah, like our program is geared for research, right? So it doesn't, it might help you get into an MD program, but it doesn't really help you as an MD that much. Any other questions?
Are summer courses included in the GPA? Yes. So we will look at your full GPA, and that will include summer courses, especially if you've taken relevant courses during the summer semester. So if you took molecular biology during the summer, then we will definitely look into it.
Pranur, this in terms of the requirements for the GPA for the PhD students, is our department for that has an A- is a hard, like that's what we require for direct entry PhD, is that correct?
Yes, I think sometimes it also depends if you have also completed an MSc, because then we would be considering both MSc and BSc as well. But typically, yeah, the A- is a hard cutoff. But I think Dr. Scott and I always tell students, like, I think like Lori also mentioned, like if for some reason like you're part of the cohort that COVID impacted or something like that, we would strongly recommend that you clarify that in your letter of intent.
Thanks, Pranur.
There's this question about, I think, ELP. If I don't meet one of the requirements of English, yes and okay, no. So if we're actually pretty strict with our ELP guidelines because they're not, they're actually mandated by the university and the School of Graduate Studies, so not just the department. So if you didn't exactly meet the minimum requirements for ELP, please send me an email, and we can consider your application on a conditional basis. And if we do decide to move forward with your application, I can follow up with you for what the next steps will be. But ELP is a little bit tricky, and that's dealt on a case-by-case basis. So you can just send me an email for it. Next question is, do you know the general acceptance rate for international students? How many international students are admitted annually to the PhD program?
You remember the number from last year, Pranur? I don't, but
Definitely more than
and we get a lot more international applications than we accept, for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't remember what number we accepted last year.
Yeah.
Overall, we typically, I mean, we have been taking on about 75 students in total per year. Most of those will be domestic, but some are international. But we don't have a quota per se. We just try to survey our faculty to learn, you know, how many slots that we have, we take, you know, just we do get a lot more applications than we can take, right? So we are looking for the strongest students.
Next question is the overall GPA requirement more important than relevant coursework? If you meet the overall GPA requirement, but some of the relevant courses are lower, is that fine? And maybe let you take that one, Lori.
Well, we're particularly interested in the courses that are relevant for our program. Okay. So if your GPA is fine, but you only got a B in genetics and molecular biology, that's concerning to us, because those are the things we need you to be stronger in. So, you know, we'd be more forgiving if your low marks were in something that don't impact us, like, you know, a language or something like that.
And then the next question is, how many applications do we get in a year, and what is the overall GPA average? In terms of how many applications we get in a year, I want to say around 350 to 400. We had a lot last year, so I'm kind of basing it off of that. And then overall GPA average, I'm not sure if I would have an answer to that, but most applicants that apply do typically meet the minimum GPA requirements for both, whether they're applying for MSc or PhD. It's very rare that we get applicants, or there are very few applicants that apply that do not meet the minimum GPA requirements. Is the GPA requirement competitive? I would say we would look at your entire application, so your research experience will also be considered, your letters of reference, like your letter of intent, every part of your application will be considered. So we're not just assessing you on your GPA requirement.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, we look at everything, and there would be some students, okay, you have to meet the minimum GPA requirement, but there were some students that maybe they meet it, but they don't look super impressive with marks, but then maybe they've had a lot of research experience, and their reference letters say, oh, this person is just way better in, you know, doing research than their marks, you know, reflect. So some people are just better at practical stuff than coursework, right? So we would take all that into account.
Next question is, if I'm applying for the January 15 deadline, how recent should the transcript be? The transcript, especially if you're currently completing your 4th year of your studies, undergrad, or even if you're in your final year of your MSc, it could be as recent as you can send it to us to be. You have the option to update the documents that you submit online. I would say that if you're applying for the January deadline, just try to submit it in, well, give yourself enough buffer time so that if, you know, there are any changes or revisions that you need to make to the application, because the university is closed during the winter break, so I may not be available to answer your email. So I would say start applying as soon as possible. And in terms of your transcript, we will admit you based on whatever we see so far. And then we also do inform the students that when we, you know, after the offer of admission is made, you are required to send us your official transcripts sometimes in June and July. So, and we do need you to still retain or maintain the minimum GPA requirements that we have for our program. So that should help. And then I think, yeah, I might just answer the next question. Do you by any chance have a format for the required letter of reference? No, I would say most faculty typically have their own reference templates that when they're writing letters of reference for students. Priority. They're asking for a template for the letter of reference.
Yeah, no, we don't have one. We let the faculty, the faculty usually prefer to write their own in their own way.
Yeah. Next question is, if my degree is of 4 years and I spend 4 years and a half to complete it, what do I put in the program link? Please put 4 years, because that was the original length, or like that's what the degree length is. That's sort of determined by a program. Next question is, does it lower the chances of my acceptance if the application is submitted before November deadline versus January deadline? No, but I will say that applying to some of the earlier deadlines also has impacts on some scholarships and admission awards that you might be eligible for. So I would also strongly recommend that you look into the SGS admissions awards page, especially for international students. A lot of the admission award deadlines are earlier in the application cycle. So it is sometimes beneficial to actually apply for the November or January deadline, because a lot of admission awards are typically not available by the May deadline. So just keep that in mind if you're thinking about that. Next question is, are acceptances given out in an ongoing basis after the first deadline? We don't do them on a running basis. So like, we just assess everything on November 15th. Then anything beyond that will be assessed during the January 15 deadline. And then after January 15, everything will be assessed during the May deadline. In the section of academic history, is the date conferred or accepted the date I received my degree? Yeah, so whatever your typical convocation date is at your university, so, or like, sorry, not convocation, like when you complete your studies. So for most Canadian universities, it's April of whatever year, so April 2024. For domestic, do you recommend applying for the November deadline too? How many spots are available in the master's program? For domestic students, if you think you'll have a strong application by the November deadline, you know, we strongly encourage that you apply for that. The overline message would be like, I think as Lori mentioned, like apply for whichever deadline you think you will have your strongest application by. If that's November for you, then you can do that as well. There's no specific advantages to applying for any of the earlier deadlines. We recommend the earlier deadlines for international students due to study permit delays or processing times. But how many spots are available in the master's program? Again, we will assess applications based on, you know, who we think are the strongest applicants we've received that academic year. They're not specific spots that we're reserving for MSc versus PhD applicants. Is that fair, Lori?
Yep. Okay, any more questions?